Welcome, Binge Watchers, where we talk about the stories and characters we love and the shows they live in. My name is Ron, and let's talk about Season 1 of the new Marvel Netflix original, Iron Fist. So Iron Fist tells the story of Danny Rand, who while traveling with his family on a plane, crashes and lives away from his home for years. While he's away, Danny trains in the sacred heaven city of Kunlun and becomes the Iron Fist. So the show already starts off with a very chewed up story. We've seen the billionaire superhero done well, we've seen it done wrong. Point is, we've seen it quite a few times. When Danny finally comes back to the city, he obviously wants back in his family's company, Queen Consolidated. Fuck Rand Enterprises. But Rand Enterprises is now run by Ward and Joy Meacham, the children of Harold Meacham, who co-founded Rand Enterprises. So a lot of people have been calling this show the first Netflix failure or the first Marvel Netflix failure. It has like 17% on Rotten Tomatoes as of making this video. I don't know if I would go that far. I thought it was fine. The problem is it never does anything to try to go beyond fine. Let's start with the things I liked. First of all, this is a much lighter show than the other Netflix Marvel shows. This is good because the story here can't really support a show as dark as Daredevil or Jessica Jones. I thought the tone of this show was appropriate to the story, and most of the time it was kind of fun. The show does get darker and heavier as the episodes go on, but I feel that that was the right way to go. Also, there are some pretty great characters in this show. Ward Meacham was probably my favorite character. I really like that actor. I loved him in Banshee, and Ward's character made a lot of sense. He had substance, and I thought the actor was just really good. Actually, most of the supporting cast is great. Colleen Wing is a cool character. She has some really interesting conflicts about who she is and what she wants to be, and also she just kicks ass. Claire Temple, the night nurse, is just as fun and all-around great as she is in the other Netflix Marvel shows. She does a really great job as the common thread in all these shows. I loved it that she's like not even fazed anymore by all the weird stuff. If you've watched the other shows, her character makes perfect sense. She's also really good at being the voice of us, the audience. Whenever things get too weird, she's the one asking the questions or saying the things that you would say. The action was cool, but it was supposed to be much more. There are some really cool, incredibly well choreographed action scenes in this show, but they keep doing this thing where a fight gets going and then they cut away, leaving us to assume like, yeah, the good guys probably won. And also, the coolest action scenes are always the ones where you don't have a lot of cuts, where it's like one continuous shot, or at least it's made to seem that way. But most of the fight scenes in Iron Fist were shot in a very traditional, kind of disappointing way. And I didn't feel like this show had its moment, that one amazing scene that was like super intense, like the Daredevil hallway scene in Season 1, or the staircase scene in Season 2, or just like every single scene the Punisher was in. And Iron Fist was supposed to be all about the martial arts. There are a few fights where you feel like this is gonna be it, and then they either cut away or they do this super cliche thing where Danny gets his ass kicked, gets knocked down, has a few flashbacks and then gets up and wins the fight. Seriously, that happens in like every fight, like multiple times an episode. The pacing in this show isn't great. It starts out too slow, and then there are several storylines that just get too drawn out. And while most of the characters in this show are okay, the story overall is not very nuanced. Don't get me wrong, a straightforward story is fine, but in this show it seems like most of the interesting stuff is going on in the background. Most of the awkward or just kind of not very interesting scenes in this show are a result of the biggest problem in this show. The biggest problem in this show is Danny Rand. The story in this show is all over the place, but when it comes to other characters, it makes sense. You get their motivations, you get their stories. For Danny, There are like 5 different things he says that this is the only thing I care about. The whole point of his character is that he is the Iron Fist, whose sole mission is to destroy the League of Assassins. Sorry, goddammit, the Hand, this evil ninja organization. And he's conflicted about it, which is fine. He wants to be the Iron Fist, but he also wants to be Danny Rand. I get it. But all through the story, he does things that if this other thing is the thing that you care about now, this thing you're doing right now doesn't make any sense. But that wasn't even my biggest problem with Danny. My biggest problem was that I simply didn't buy it. At no point do you believe that this annoying child who throws tantrums and doesn't listen to anybody and is incredibly condescending and kind of a hipster dick all around, at no point does it make sense that this is the guy who beat everybody else and earned this crazy mantle of the immortal Iron Fist. He's the one that passed all the trials and found his center and was the Zen master. I don't buy it. I'm not saying make him season 5 Oliver Queen from episode 1. He can start as season 1 Oliver Queen, but he has no arc. He keeps being the same annoying child. So his whole backstory never made sense to me. And also, and I kind of hate to say this, the actor was kind of bad. Danny's character most of the time is either saying things like, I am the Iron Fist, protector of Kunlun, sworn enemy of the Hand, or behaving like a 6-year-old. And the acting on both of these extremes was kind of cringy most of the time. The only other place I saw Finn Jones was on Game of Thrones as Loras Tyrell, and he was okay there. In Iron Fist, there seems to have been an unfortunate combo of Danny's character being poorly written and poorly acted. I feel that most of the problems with the character could have been fixed by just taking another approach with the character, so writing, I guess, because he was just too all over the place to make sense. But I also think that Finn Jones wasn't the right actor for the role, without getting to the whole other discussion about who should have played this role. And one last thing that kind of bothered me is that just like in Luke Cage, they did the same thing where they don't really have one villain. You have like different villains that are like the bad guy for segments of the show. So this is the main villain for these 3 episodes, and now we have 3 more episodes where this other guy is the villain, like with reveal after reveal of who is the actual villain. I get that they probably didn't want to do the same thing like in Daredevil and Jessica Jones, where you have this one menacing, like one villain, but it didn't do the story any favors. Like, it didn't help the story feel more coherent, and the story didn't feel strong enough to begin with. So I feel that if they did have this one amazing villain like Kilgrave or Fisk, or even Cottonmouth, which could have been like a great villain if he was the villain for the entire season in Luke Cage, if they had that, I feel the story could have been much stronger. Bottom line, should you watch? I know it feels like I'm about to say just run away from this show as fast as you can, but it really isn't a bad show. I still had a good time with it. It just has a very unfortunate main character. There are plenty of other stuff that I did like. The fighting was okay. Most of the other characters were interesting. I know it's not what any showrunner is going for, but Iron Fist is fine. If you're a big fan of the other Netflix Marvel show, watch this one too. I doubt you'll hate it. If you haven't watched any of the other ones, then no. Like, don't watch this show. Go watch season 1 of Daredevil. See if you like that. I think Iron Fist had the odds stacked against it from the beginning. It has a premise that we've seen too many times before. It doesn't really do anything new with it, and it feels like the main character was miscast. I don't regret watching it. Not every show you watch has to be your favorite show. Some shows can just be casually fun action superhero shows. I would say that this is one of the more skippable entries to the overall series. What about you? Have you watched season 1 of Iron Fist? What were your thoughts about it? Let me know in the comments down below. I know I keep saying this, but I will try to use these in a spoiler video that I really do want to make. Those seem to just get away from me. Also, let me know who is your favorite character from all the Netflix Marvel shows up until now and why. For me, it still has to be Fisk and then the Punisher. If you're finding Binge Watchers for the first time, welcome! I'd like to invite you to join the Binge Watchers community. Come talk about TV with us. It's a lot of fun. Subscribe to the channel or click here to check out some of the other videos we have up on the channel. But in any case, keep binging, and I will see you in the Heaven City of Kunlun.